Well, we're at the briefing to find out what is probably one of the most important decisions to be made in Douglas that could last literally, well, they're saying at least 40 years, the construction work. What is going to happen to Douglas Promenade? Keith Podmore is with me from infrastructure. Your little chat this afternoon to the press and to MHKs and everybody else is interested is to break it down. And I thought we could do that. We'll hopefully have the pictures to put over this to explain what it's going to look like. So what I thought we'd do is, if you could break it down, we can go through it stage by stage, and really we've got these graphics from your presentation.
Yes.
So it all starts just after Victoria Street comes in to the main promenade, and I think maybe even before that, in my head, there was a question mark, isn't that a pinch point in itself, where you've got all that traffic that's come around past the C terminal and the Victoria Street joining immediately? There's a bottleneck there already before you do anything. Yeah, and you're not dealing with that at all, no roundabouts, nothing.
No. We're expecting that area, because that is where we finished the phase 1 works. Phase 1 obviously finished at Victoria Street, so we're continuing on from that location there. It's an ideal location to introduce what we call a gateway feature. The gateway feature is something that is required for a scheme of this magnitude, to help to emphasise to the driver that they're entering into an area that might be slightly unfamiliar to them at first. What we're looking at doing is creating a low-speed environment.
So you're making a sort of suggestion that people can walk across it in places. Is that
yes,
fair way? But it's not actually going to be a pedestrian crossing as we know it.
Well, no, it's not a traditional pedestrian crossing, but it's what we would class as a courtesy crossing. But it is going to have a look of a zebra crossing, because it is going to be done in stripes, but they won't be black and white painted stripes. They're going to be done in a similar material that we would have either side on the footway.
And the ethos of this shared space thing is that no one particularly has right of way. Is that right? I mean, a person walking across that road doesn't actually own it, but therefore the cars also don't own it. It's a give and take, is it? Would you describe it?
It's still, you'd still see it as a highway as such, but basically because you're introducing different features to the highway, you're encouraging the driver to take more account of his surroundings. So therefore, when people do want to cross the road at that point, they'll feel less restricted to do so, because there'll be a lower speed of vehicle, and the vehicle will be more aware of that pedestrian, so that if a pedestrian does make a venture to move across the road, then the driver has that opportunity then to slow down, not necessarily to stop, but they can slow down in advance of seeing that person crossing the road, judge their speed, that person will cross, and then they can carry on beyond.
Narrower areas for traffic.
Yes.
It's not going to be as wide, but there's still going to be parking on the sides for everyone, is there?
There's still going to be parking on the side of the carriageway, yeah. We've tried to introduce echelon parking as much as possible, because we've had lots of requests from lots of stakeholders along the promenade saying that parking is still very important to them. So we've tried to maintain parking to the same levels. One of our requirements is not to lose more than 10% of parking along its whole length with these new proposals and new developments.
And you're putting some colour into it to indicate where those lanes are. Can people still overtake though, can they?
They can still overtake, yes. We will, as well as the actual black tarmac corridor that the cars will travel up and down, there'll be a central, what we're classing as a median strip. That will be done in a different material. So again, it's emphasised to the driver that, well, should I really be driving on that or not? He will be aware that eventually, yes, you will be able to still drive on it, but you take more care driving.
We'll have a different feel to it and a different finish.
It'll be a different colour, and it should be a different texture as well.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've got the horse trams going down the side.
Yeah.
That's where they're going to go now. But at this stage, they're going on the seaside of the Sunken Gardens.
That's correct, yes.
And that is that. So really, that all now stays the same. I mean, you've got pull-in places for coaches as well, things like that being allowed for. Disabled parking as well?
Disabled parking, we've kept at least the same number of existing disabled parking bays, but I think we're actually looking at increasing and introducing some additional disabled parking bays.
So that's how it looks all the way down, really, as far as Greenhill Corner, isn't it? I mean, then
yes,
that's the next sort of moment.
That's correct.
What happens there?
At Greenhill's Corner, we're going to introduce, again, it's going to be similar to a roundabout, but we actually class it as a roundel. So it's going to operate very similar to how a roundabout would operate, but we're not going to be introducing white lining and signing to tell the driver exactly how he should be approaching and driving through that junction.
Is it going to confuse people? I mean,
it shouldn't do. People instinctively, when they approach what they see as a roundabout on the ground, they will drive to the left and drive around it, and they will give way as such to vehicles approaching in other directions. And it's instinctive for drivers to do that, and that's how this roundel will operate as well.
Now this frees up a bit of an area, doesn't it? Which is stuck in the middle at the moment. No one can actually walk on it.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
That'll change. There'll be an actual a meeting point, I think you call it, a meeting area.
It is the cultural area, which is outside the Sefton Hotel and the Gaiety Theatre. Yeah, that area of garden that's very nicely maintained by Douglas Council at the moment. It's not accessible by the public. So what we're able to do is, because we're changing the layout of the highway, is we've been able to take the area that currently occupies, and we've moved that directly outside the Sefton and the Gaiety, so that we're creating an area there that people can use and congregate, and will be a focal point for meeting and for congregation. Yeah.
And again, I noticed that the Pelican Crossing has gone on your model.
Yes.
This will be again one of those sort of raised areas to give and take.
Again, the whole area is going to be at one level. So beyond the gateway feature at Victoria Street, it will all be very much one level. We're not going to have distinctive raised curves between footpaths and the carriageway. So yes, so in the cultural area, it is going to be basically one flat area.
Okay, so moving along, another roundabout appears at the bottom of Broadway, or yes, whatever you want to call it. What do you call it again? It's
a roundel.
A roundel.
A roundel, yes.
It is a roundabout, but it's not a roundabout.
Yes, basically.
It works on the same principle.
It works under the same principle.
No arrows
yes.
then, no sort of directional thing?
No directional arrows, so
right.
Basically traffic, there'll be a single lane of approach from each direction for vehicle traffic, and it will be driven as a car driver would drive a normal roundabout. And
all this can be done because the horse trams, again, are on the side now, because up to now it's been completely impossible to have a roundabout there. Although
right, yes.
Everyone, I think, overall we think roundabouts work better than traffic lights, but that's another matter. What about, again, people walking across? Do they have to go all the way up to the Villa Marina to have a parking area, a crossing area, or can they wander across this roundel?
No, there's no reason why pedestrians can't cross anywhere between Greenhills Corner and Broadway. That whole area will be encouraging pedestrians to move across from the Landwood town centre side onto the promenade walkway. We've introduced as many courtesy crossing points at this location as we can.
What about people who are blind? People that have relied on the beep noise, for instance, to give them an indication when they could go. Someone with a dog, for instance. How have you worked that into your?
Well, basically, we've had discussions with the Guide Dog for the Blind Association and also the Manx Disability Association. The Guide Dog for the Blind have actually produced a guidance document because the concept of shared space is being used very much more across in the UK now. And they've realised that to try and get designers on board with how to make these areas inclusive for disabled persons, they've produced some guidance, and what we've done is we've used that guidance to help develop the whole length of the promenade, so that we've tried to be as inclusive as possible for disabled and visually impaired persons.
Now, after Broadway, overall it looks like you're stopping as such being fancy, it's going back to just tarmacking.
Correct, that's correct, yes.
Is that
turning into basically.
This is where the horse trams then move slightly differently because they move, because there aren't no sunken gardens anymore, are there? So
that's right, yeah. They basically move alongside the existing carriageway. So you'll have the carriageway, you'll then have parking, a footway, and then you'll have the horse tram.
And parking, more or less, would it be diagonal? Would it be chevron? I mean, or would it just be as it is now?
Again, we've narrowed the carriageway beyond Broadway, so that in some instances we've been able to introduce angle parking to try and increase numbers. At the very least, we've kept it parallel on both sides.
Okay. Anything else major between there and Summerhill? I mean, again, will there be more of those? There's no more zebra crossing or pelicans, as I said again. So raised areas will be.
We'll be keeping. We'll be introducing zebra crossings all the way.
Oh, zebra crossings.
So yeah, because it's more of a traditional highway.
But no more buttons again. They've gone.
No more buttons. It's basically just a zebra crossing arrangement
Right.
at the various areas where we need a crossing point.
And again, the whole thing about having these smaller lanes is, from what you've been saying today, not just you but everyone, was that there'd be less stop-start, but overall it's a slower journey, isn't it? It's slower moving, but it keeps moving.
Slower moving,
but
but it should take you from A to B in, if not the same time, a little bit quicker than you would have done if you'd have travelled at 30 miles an hour, then had to stop for a pelican.
Because people see lights and they want to run from them, don't they?
Correct, yes.
Right.
That's right.
So more give and take because people aren't so bothered, but no one's going to jump in front of them, I suppose.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, let's deal with Summerhill.
Yes.
This roundel again, is it? Or roundabout?
No, traditional roundabout.
Traditional roundabout.
Traditional roundabout at Summerhill, yeah.
That again, because you've moved the horse trams, mind you, of course, the horse trams still have to cross, don't they, at some point?
They do. They're going to be crossing after the Summerhill junction.
Right.
So and it will be a single line across the road,
right.
where they will then join the existing tram line in Strathallan Crescent before getting into the tram shed.
Have I covered everything there?
I think so. I think you've covered everything.
Are you happy with the results of what you've got here?
I think so. Yeah. I'm very happy. I think we've actually got a scheme now that the department can take forward and be very proud of as something that will be a major benefit to the promenade for years to come.
5 years and it should be done.
That's the proposal, between 3 and 5, depending on how many phases we can have open at one time.